And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to a Shaping Success Morning Coffee with myself, Wes Tankersley, and my new co-host, Robert Watson. This is the first one that we have done. Good morning, Robert. Sorry for cutting you off, but this is the first one that we've done this way, and so we are going to continue to do it. It's going to get it perfected here slowly but surely. We stream live on the YouTube platform, Facebook, I think X, and a couple other places. Nikki is here on YouTube. She's probably been patiently waiting for us as we work through the technical aspects of this. We're going to try and do this on TikTok as well. So if we can keep this going, that will be where you will find us, TikTok Live every morning. Make sure you follow Robert. Make sure you follow myself to get the notifications. There are subscriptions and all those things you can do. But we're going to talk about a couple things. So this week, we're going to just start going through topics on Monday. And that's going to be the way that it's going to work is Topics Monday, Robert's book, Ours Victorious, on Wednesday. We're halfway through it. We've been working on that for almost a year. Has it been almost a year? For a while, I feel like.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's at least a half a year. I mean, we're through 20-something chapters of it, so. But one of the things we're going to start to try to do here is we're going to try and go and Robert puts up clips every day on his TikTok, on his Instagram, and some things that he's thinking about during the day. And so we'll play that video and then we'll talk about a couple things, couple quotes, things like that. And kind of just help you to see if you can move forward and grow. That's what we're trying to do, right, Robert?
Exactly. Now, everybody, I've got several different cameras, so I'll be venturing back and forth during the time. But yeah, that sounds great, Wes. I look forward to it.
Yep. And that's where, and you'll notice like it's kind of weird if you haven't learned about media and the way that you do things. A lot of times they want you to be looking directly at the camera. I'm doing the same thing. So we're running on different platforms. And to do that, you can't just be on TikTok or you can't just be on YouTube and TikTok. So like if I'm looking off like this, I'm looking at another screen looking at Robert and it looks weird on the TikTok camera. Same thing with Robert. Like we're getting this started where his phone is down below. So TikTok looks like he's looking up and that's just the way it's going to be. We'll get it figured out and we will make it better for you every single time. But let's get started here. We're going to play this video real quick. We'll come back. If you're on TikTok, you're not going to see the video, unfortunately. But you know, Robert will give you kind of the gist of what he said when we get into the TikTok, just so you can kind of see that, and then we'll talk about it. So here is this video. This is what last Friday. Did you post this?
It is.
Okay, so this is a post from last Friday. If you follow Robert, he posts these every single day, so you can go check him out. But this is his last Friday's clip.
Our attachment to our past should never be greater than our commitment to our future. Have a terrific day. Bye-bye now.
All right, Robert. So let's kind of break that down a little bit.
So what's interesting, and that's what I always have to present to people, is what they see is, of course, one of the things you see me doing right now is sweating, and you see in that picture is my commitment was to finish my run, record the day, and then give somebody a motivational clip. So I am fresh off of the tarmac or fresh off of whatever run that I'm on. Well, in this case, I had thrown up about 4 minutes before that. So what Wes doesn't know, okay,
I didn't know that. You're right.
Is I got a stomach bug at 10 o'clock the previous night, right? So that was the first time. So I threw up 3 times over the night, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm dehydrated to hell. All the food from the day is gone. And I have multiple milestones in my runs, both time and distance. And so I made it to a milestone and projectiled. Okay. And so that was basically at the point where I had to protect my body because I knew, as you can see, I was sweating, right? So I'm losing fluids through my pores. I've lost fluids every other way. So I don't have any fluids. I'm dehydrated as hell, right?
Yep.
And so you can never tell what's going on in someone's life. Okay. I presented a good enough picture to everybody to basically show them that I was surviving that I just hit a milestone. Everybody goes, well, okay, that's really interesting. 3,000 some odd days. To protect that 9.5-year streak, I have ran after surgery, before surgery, during hurricanes, during thunderstorms, and as you now know, right in the middle of stomach viruses, flus, everything you can possibly imagine, injuries, sinuses, everything you can possibly throw at a human has happened. But that one was unique because when I asked a friend how I looked, they said, oh, you look fine. You look normal. I said, I had just thrown up. And they were just like, huh? I said, yeah, I was completely dehydrated. I was protecting myself and just making sure that I got through it. So you never really know what's going on in people's life. But just remember, in reality, no one cares.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's why we talk about pressure being a privilege, right? Is it pressure or stress? I look at it as pressure. My system's not necessarily stressed. In this case, my system probably was stressed. That probably was. It's not the world's healthiest thing, but at least I know enough to listen to my body at that point and stop.
Right.
And, for the next couple of days, even including this morning was only my second, what I call a clean run. What a clean run is when I don't have any injuries or pains, and I basically make it to every milestone. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so you'd be surprised. There's not a lot of clean runs. So if I get 4 or 5 days in a row of clean runs where I don't hurt or something, that's pretty actually amazing, because my sinuses are horrible and this is a bad time of the year for me. Right. So consequently, I am literally, I'm running with a Halls in my mouth.
Oh,
just to survive. And see, this is what everybody looks at. They forget what it takes to accomplish anything, especially something like a 9.5, almost a 10-year streak. What it takes is a whole lot of adaptability to whatever challenges you're facing, right? You just adapt. But I say that because I believe pressure is a privilege. I'm in a privileged position to take my streak and maybe do something useful with it, right? To tell people, hey, listen, you can accomplish anything. And people don't realize too, I'm 63. Okay. I'll be 64 next year. I started my streak at 53 years old. I didn't start it at 33. There's a lot of streakers on, but they're at least 2 decades younger than me.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about running streakers, not those type that are running around the field naked. So just remember that. But the funny thing about that is I think that it's mind over matter, right? Like we have to decide, Nikki's over here saying, well, I'm a wimp. And it's like, I know Nikki doesn't think that she's a wimp, because I know that she also knows the same thing that I know, because I introduced her to David Goggins, and just like that type of thing is like, it's a mind over matter, right? The choice is yours. You decide whether you're going to allow that pain to stop you, which, first of all, it's insane that you endure through that in people's minds, right? It's perception versus reality, though, where a lot of people see people killing it. A lot of people think that, and I've been through it with this podcast, right? We sit here and we think that this thing, everyone says, well, he's killing it. He's got this, he's got that, blah, blah, blah. Well, the majority of the time, I get 50 downloads a week on the audio portion of it. We get 2 or 3 on the YouTube. We get, we had one short that went, I think we got 2,000 views over on YouTube the other day. The TikTok videos get 300. Like, this is the perception that people see, but they don't understand that we're still just putting in the work every single day in hopes that one day it will take off. They see this, but they don't know what actually really is going on.
And that was really the point of using the video is because I knew I would shock you, because you didn't know what I was going through. All right. And no one knows, because, I mean, come on, what difference does it do to advertise? Doesn't, I have to go through a lot, and I've had hamstring pulls. My hip has been bothering me for a while. Right. Yeah. So when I say a lot of pain, some of the times it's a lot of pain. Like I can't walk pain.
Yeah. And I can't say that it surprised me that you had thrown up. Like, that doesn't surprise me because I know who you are, but it was surprising to hear it, that's what was going on right after that run. Because again, like you said, we perceive that you have this long streak. And those of you who don't know, If you're new to meeting Robert, I've been following him for quite a while, and we've been talking for over, 2 years now. He was on my show a couple years ago, and we interviewed and talked about this running streak that he has. He posts, you see it every single day. It used to be on the videos on TikTok. It would be like, he'd say this many days running. Now he just posts it on there, but does the little clip of like we looked at before. So it's something that you can do through COVID, through throwing up, through injuries. You said surgery. These are all things that people still do, but you just see the result. You just see the number. Oh, he got lucky. He didn't have any of these issues the whole time. He's just a healthy person, blah, 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 blah. Not the truth, not the case.
No, and that's what people need to understand behind the scene. Especially, I always love one guy said, what you see before the takeoff, before you become the Academy Award winning actor, was you forget to see the 10 years of spending or the 20 years deep in your craft before that magical moment happens when you gain notoriety or when whatever you do takes off or whatever your TikTok or whatever goes viral. You forget to see all the stuff that goes into it, all the preparation. Like somebody asked me, what's the one thing you try to do to prepare yourself every day? I know where all my clothing are. Everything's right there. I don't have to think. I get out of bed. I walk into my clothing. I get moving. I do whatever's necessary. And things are always changing too.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you're always like, okay, let me adapt to this. I've got this new running path I want to use. And I go through 2 pairs of shoes a year. Mm-hmm. So think about it. I have tire problems, right? And also remember too, I'm, at my age, I start running into repetitive stress injuries too. Yep. This isn't just, I saw a guy made a comment. He said, do you know that the average person never sprints after the age of 30? And I didn't know that. I kind of thought about it and I went, okay, that's probably true. Now that's not true for me,
right?
But it probably is true for a lot of people because as you get older, sprinting hurts, blah, 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 blah. For me, sprinting puts a lot of stress on my body that doesn't necessarily need to be there.
Yeah.
So do I do it very often? No. Why? Because again, it's repetitive stress. So I look at my body parts as like, okay, if tires have 80,000 miles, well, my body actually has so many hundreds of thousands of miles that I can walk, run, or whatever. And there's going to be a finite number. I don't know where it is, but so nonetheless, I'm trying to make the most of what I've got and what my body, and I have impeccable genetics. I got to tell you, my 2 parents are wonderful. Thank God. But doesn't matter. I still have to do the work.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing that people lose sight of is the fact that no matter what, like you look at like these older people, like there's a lot of death going on right now. Like I feel like in my, and I'm getting to that age where there are people who are passing away. I lost my grandmother. She was damn near 100 probably last year. People in my life are losing people left and right. And it's interesting to see that because as you get older, it doesn't happen when you're younger. You don't really think about those things. And now people are passing away. But as you get older, there are things that we don't do when we're younger. That sprinting thing really makes a lot of sense to me because as we stop doing the things that we could do when we were active, we end up losing that muscle retention. Our body doesn't do the things that we did before. I mean, I sprint because I'm chasing my 2-year-old around half the time, which is kind of funny. But you don't do it very often. And if you don't do that, if you don't use those muscles or do the things that you do anymore, you start to lose it. Then you get that like old man shuffle as you get older and you start to lose the muscle tone and you stop working out and you start doing other things. And the muscles that you use are different. And so if you don't retain that by doing exercising, lifting weights, doing all those things, you're going to end up like that. You have, yeah. Robin on TikTok says you have to move. You definitely have to move. What's up, TJ? If you guys are joining us for the first time, make sure you're following Robert. We are live on YouTube as well. You can go over and follow Shaping Success with Wes Tankersley. Get hopped in on that too, so that you can not miss it. Make sure you subscribe everywhere.
Well, one of the things that it comes as an interesting when we talk about pressures and privilege. So in the Army Special Operations community, right, to get into the community, you go through what's called selection. Mm-hmm. What's odd about selection is you keep thinking in terms of they select you. Well, actually, that's not what happens. You select yourself. So what happens is they give you an obstacle course, whatever, again, called selection. You accomplish it, you don't compass. You drop on request, right? In other words, I can't hack it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this again tomorrow, whatever it is. But you self-select, right? I want to be part of this community. I'm going to show up again. No matter what you guys do to me, I'm going to keep being here. And consequently, you get to join the community. Eventually, the trials end and you have self-selected.
Right.
That is so much of our lives. We self-select, right? We keep thinking in terms of, well, I didn't make it to the NFL, for example, right? Yeah, but here's the thing. I showed up. At the end, I didn't quite have the right talent at the time to make it.
Yep.
But it wasn't like I didn't show up, right? I did select, and I took the pressure and the privilege and the opportunity to be there. And you just got to keep pushing. What our body delivers is exactly what we demand.
Yeah, and I have to go back.
It stops delivering.
Yep, for sure. And I have to go back to like David Goggins. And I'm sure you read his book, but like to think about the things that this guy does, like it's insane. Like a lot of people dislike him because he's so rash and he's so harsh about the way that he says things. But if you look at it, like that example of not making it to the NFL, you have two choices at that point, right? Like you stop trying or you try again. And I watched listening to like what David does. It's like he's done these 100-mile races and he didn't make it the first time. He trained harder and fixed what he did the first time to make it the second time. So you have the choice to continue to keep doing it or your choice is to quit. So if you want it bad enough, anything is possible as long as you're willing to do the work. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows when you get there. But most of the time, people who do those things are never satisfied and they will continue to work as hard as they possibly can in order to reach that goal. And that's the point.
And that's a lot about how you accomplish things. Like it's like doing this podcast with you. I have no idea what it's going to, how successful it's going to be one way or the other, but we're going to show up and we're going to do it for an awfully long time.
Right.
Right. Because we're both extremely stubborn people. We'll keep adjusting.
Right.
But we're going to keep showing up because we think we've got something to say. And eventually we will either be proven right or proven wrong.
Right.
Okay. And then we will self-select to quit.
Yep.
No one's really going to stop us. No one's going to cut us off the air. I mean, so the reality is we are going to decide. Just like when it all got down, I got that last invitation to go to a team to try out. And I said no.
Yeah.
I self-selected and said, no, I'm done. Okay.
Yeah, that's
not
it. The choice is yours. It's funny. There's one thing that I wanted to talk about, like this pressure versus stress. I think that's a main thing. Like in my life, it's the same thing too. And that's what we're going to bring into this, our what we've gone through in our life, how we deal with those things. And I deal with stress every single day, but I've found a way to deal with it a little bit better. How do I make it work a little bit better for me? How do you adjust to that? So like you have this, I'm going to throw up, but how am I going to handle this when I'm running? Like, what can I do? Am I going to stop? No, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to create this hierarchy of what needs to be done. I know that I need to get out there and I know that I need to run. So how am I going to get there? Well, I'm going to get to this point. If I have to throw up, I'm going to throw up there. And then I know that I got to get to the next point. I know that I need to continue going. This is the same thing in life. Okay. Like I'm going to talk to you mostly about my job. I don't have this running streak that Robert has, but I also need to be doing other things. And how do I create the things to put myself in a better situation with my job, with my Robert doesn't have any young kids like I do. And that's kind of the cool thing about this is he's from one generation. I'm from another. I should have had kids 10 years ago, but we waited a little bit longer, but we're still sitting here. I have a 10-year-old and I have a 2-year-old. So there's all these things in these processes and these things that I put in place in order to make sure that I can do this. So yeah, it's 5:00 in the morning here in Boise, Idaho, not Boise, Caldwell, Idaho, but it's 5:00 in the morning. So my wife is sleeping or she's probably up now because she has to go to work. I have to get my kids up at 6:30. So I'm getting this done first thing in the morning. and we're doing it live so that I don't have to do a whole bunch of editing, and we're okay with that. So that's a process that has to be done. You guys don't see that from behind. You don't understand why I'm doing it that way. And I've dragged Robert into he's already up anyway, so we make him run just a little bit earlier so that he can be here. But you have to do certain things. You have to put certain things in motion in order to reach those goals. And if you have something that you want to do, maybe you need to go back to school to get a degree, like say you want to be a doctor, but you're doing something different right now and you don't like your job. Maybe you have to take a little bit of that extra time, get up a little bit earlier, stay up a little bit later, refocus where your priorities are to reach that goal, whatever it may be.
Well, Wes, I just finished a master's, right? And I'm on to another master's before it goes to my PhD. And, this is 2.0 for me.
Yep.
Right. This is a different version. This is a second chance. Incidentally, this last degree, master's, was my first 4.0.
Yep.
My prior bachelor's was a 3.97. Yes, I got an A minus. But my other grades when I was younger, were not impressive. I graduated more thank the Lordy than magna cum laude.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, different phases of your life. I wasn't dumb back then. I didn't somehow get older and smarter. What it was just different. I'm more focused. I'm more mature.
Right.
But life is going to be exactly what you want it to be. But also, too, remember, life might come packaged a little different than you think.
Right.
And I can't wait to talk about that, because how life gets packaged to you surprises you sometimes, and you can miss really cool things in your life because you thought it should have looked like this. But like when you started the podcast, did you know what it was going to look like? No, you still don't know.
Yeah,
we just have to put ourselves in the position of figuring it out.
Yeah, and that's funny because it's like I said, we talked about this. I have that background as well, too, and we'll talk more about our backgrounds for sure, but I have a master's degree in education. And the thought that you're never done, when I started out, I got out of high school, I had a scholarship to play football, didn't really like the school that I went to a different one, walked on, realized that I made that choice to quit playing football, like I was done with it. I wasn't going to be good enough. I was too small, this, that, blah, blah, blah. I made this self-selecting choice like you were talking about, quit, and then had a 2.7 GPA, 2.5 GPA in college and dropped out and went to work, thinking I was too stupid to make it, right? And then 11 years later, after working in a job that kicked my ass, I went back to college and got a 3.6 GPA in my bachelor's. And then same thing as you, I had that 1B in my master's. But as I'm teaching for 4 years, I'm getting my master's degree, and I had that 1B. I'm so mad I wanted that 4.0. Never had a 4.0 in my life. My cumulative GPA in high school was a 3.0, and that was only because I aced every single class my senior year because I screwed off all the others.
Yep. But the thing is that we realize that life isn't necessarily packaged where you leave high school at 18, you go get a degree, you maybe get a secondary degree, you get married, you have 2.5 kids, you live in a white picket fence. That's an illusion.
Right.
Life is much, much more complicated, convoluted, crazy. And so sometimes you have to begin to see life packaged a different way. And just, start walking through the open doors, so to speak.
Yep.
And that's what makes the most sense to me.
Exactly. That's I'm writing that down because we're going to talk about that next Monday. We'll talk a little bit more how life is packaged for you. We want to bring you guys, we don't want to keep you too long. We want to keep you in the half-hour range here with this because keep you invigorated in what's going on. And just know that this is where we're going with this. The name of the show, we're going to call it what we're calling it right now until Robert and I can find some new logos, some new names, and a bunch of stuff like that. But it's going to be on the network. It's on Shaping Success Network. Go to Shaping Success with Wes Tankersley on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will be back Monday talking about Robert's book. I haven't looked at the chapter yet because I'm a procrastinator because I want it fresh in my mind when I read it. But this is kind of what we're going to be doing here. We're going to be doing a live here on TikTok. I think it went pretty well. I don't think we had any audio technical issues. And just remember, you know, it's all about where you start. Robert, you have any closing thoughts today?
No, I'm thrilled to be here, and I'll get used to the multiple cameras and looks and get people so that I can actually look at you high on TikTok instead of looking down. But we'll get that figured out. I just didn't realize I was going to have to use my phone, so we're improvising as we go. But you know, I love that phrase from the old Marine Corps: improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Exactly, and that's what we're going to be doing. You guys will be seeing a little bit more from us in the coming days. We are going to. Normally what I do, and I haven't talked to Robert about that, but we'll work through these things that we're doing. Typically I'll hang out on TikTok after, but we're not going to do that because we need to talk about some of the stuff that we're going to do in the next one now that we know this will work. But thanks for hanging out with us. Like I said, if this is your first time watching, make sure you follow Robert, make sure you follow myself, go over to the YouTube channel and hop on there because we're going to go live in a bunch of different places. So if you're not able to sit in front of your TikTok, you can possibly go elsewhere and watch it, or you can go listen to it on any podcast platform. Right now it's under Shaping Success with Wes Tankersley. Like I said, that may change out once we figure out where that's at. But Robert, thanks for joining me this morning, and we will catch up on Wednesday for sure.
Excellent. Thanks.
All right, everyone. Till next time, I challenge you to find the shape of your success.